Our next guest comes from an area that is obviously very, very special to Canadians. I would say that he represents the Belgium and the Flanders region in particular. And for those of you familiar with the Canadian history, arguably one of our greatest poems in the English language is in Flanders Fields, which depicts the harrowing story of World War I. So we're pleased to welcome Pieter Ghijsels to my right. Since 1999, he has been working in the field of accessible tourism, first for the disability organization KVG, and later as coordinator for the Accessible Travel Information Point in Flanders. Today, he works as a policy advisor for VisitFlanders, the Tourism Administration for Flanders, Brussels. Welcome, Pieter Ghijsels. And Pieter, I will bring this closer to you.
Thank you. Can everybody see me, or should I stand up? It won't make much difference, but maybe a little bit.
Sorry, maybe you can invite the people online. Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, there's room in the front if you'd like to join us, standing at the back.
Okay, maybe a little improvement here. Well, let me first thank you, Mr. Chairman, and then first maybe I should introduce Flanders to you a bit. Flanders is the northern region of Belgium. Our friends in the southern region live in Wallonia. Our other neighbors are the Netherlands, Germany, and France. And you'll also see in the west that there's the North Sea, and just adjacent to the North Sea area, the North Sea coast, I mean, you'll find what we call the Flanders Fields area. Now, for us visitors to Flanders Fields, nowadays it is hard to imagine the terror and the violence that have ruled in that same area just 100 years ago. In those days, people fully agreed that this should never happen again. Alas, we all know that the world still conquers for peace, still hungers for peace. But the former battlefields have now become a meeting area for people from all kinds of nations. The Great War Centenary will bring a lot of attention to our region for the next few years. We already are receiving now a lot of people, young and not so young, able-bodied and with a disability. The original idea, well, the original aim was to receive 2 million visitors in the next 4 years. I can say that already now these expectations are exceeded with 50% for the first year. We want to step forward now to make it a welcoming destination for everybody. And, well, to call it accessible for everybody, we will need to connect all the links, all the shackles of the value chain. You have seen this before. But I'm showing you this because when 15 years ago we started with an action plan, an accessibility action plan, that was based on 3 main pillars. That's information, training and awareness raising, and then also, of course, infrastructure. At that time, we mainly were focusing on accommodation and events and information centers, and also the main highlights. Now we want to make a further step, and we want to make it we want to add transport and all kind of other things like public area, pubs, restaurants. We all want to add them to the same idea. Now, this is going way beyond our power as a tourist administration. So we are very happy to have found partners in on the regional level, on the provincial and local level. So this will make it, well, this makes it possible already now to have this change, change established. Now let me show you a few examples. Maybe that's something that will make it clearer. The Flanders Fields Museum is in the medieval cloth halls of Yper, or wipers as it is also called. This is where the heartbeats of the Flanders Fields region. This museum is an interactive introduction and an open invitation for everybody to start discovering personal stories and to explore the wider area. There are models that are tactable for blind people of the main buildings. Just in front of the cloth hall, for instance, there is one. There are actors representing testimonies, also with subtitles, so that more people can understand what they are telling. You also see the tilted boards with information that can be read both in seated or in standing position. So we have had a completely renovation of this museum in 2012, and now it's a very impressive experience for all. The Tyne cemetery is one of the Commonwealth cemeteries, one of the larger Commonwealth cemeteries in the region. Something that struck me when I visited the place was that they have added ramps in the marble steps, so really integrated in it. It's not just a makeshift solution. This is something permanent, and I think this is also a very strong signal for all of us. Also, when we're talking about heritage. We called it hell, they called it Passchendaele, is a quote that says it all, I think. Today, the Memorial Museum of Passchendaele in Dutch has been extended with a replica dugout, which is an underground military camp. Everything is reachable with a lift. And as well, you can also easily maneuver in it with a wheelchair, no problem. I've tested it myself, and I can say that the reconstruction is also very accurate, so that makes it also attractive to all the senses. Now, the trenches, the notorious trenches, are still marking the landscape in the Flanders Fields area. Now, making these accessible that was not so obvious as we would have hoped. So it's taking us a little longer, but we're almost there now. What we're doing here is we are making a pathway around it. Well, the trouble was there was not enough place in it to maneuver, because it's only 60 to 70 centimeters wide. So if we now make a pathway around it, and at an extension we make a slope that it can go to the level of the trench, that will give a very strong impression. Now, no worry for those who already are visiting the area. There's also near the Passchendaele Museum, there's also 3 reconstructed types of trenches that are easily accessible. Accommodation. The province of West Flanders alone has now 100 B&Bs, hotels, hostels, all mainstream holiday accommodations that meet quite high accessibility standards. I have here a catalogue that represents all 250 plus. in the Flanders region. If you like, you can take a look after the session, and I have also some digital copies with me. What is important is that all this information is quite a long description, 1 page per building, with photographs, because everything has been checked on the spot, and only the best are in there. As you can see, there is a label that we have that indicates the level of accessibility. But behind this is also a big database with a lot of extra information still, even more than in the brochure. Now, further, we have to add the restaurants, the parking places, public toilets, equipment, personal assistance, transport. If we are taking, with the help of the province of West Flanders, we were able to screen all those places and also identify the bottlenecks and adapt where needed under supervision of a specialized architect. The results are published in all kinds of information, not only the dedicated things, dedicated websites or brochures like this one. Also, I have that in digital version here too. Not only there, but also in the mainstream channels. I think this is very important, that it's not that you don't have to identify yourself as a person with a disability in order to reach this information. You will also find it if you just go for the general information. Now, I have already mentioned the matter of equipment. Oh, yeah, I forgot something. It's not only, of course, not only a matter of bricks and mortar. There's also the personal part, and here's where awareness raising and training comes up. We have, for years already, we've got training sessions for tour guides, for desk staff, for hotel personnel, etc. There are also some manuals and brochures that we are publishing, because this is so important for us, and also this makes a whole difference in the perception and in the appreciation by the visitor. And then there I am. The equipment and the personal assistance. You may have noticed in my explanation that I was very often referring to the mainstream tourism sector. This was a very deliberate strategy, but we have to agree that if you need a hoist, if you need a mobility scooter, if you need personal assistance, for instance, then that will take some extra effort, more than we would like, especially for people from abroad. This is why we have made a network of providers, private providers and public services, so that we can match the things that are available with the demand. Now, this was only the start. This is our pilot project, and it is, I can say, as you already heard, it is a successful one. So we are now expanding first to the coastal area. And from this year on, from next year on, we'll start with the art cities like Bruges and Antwerp and Ghent. So by 2020, we want to be completely ready with the region of Flanders. And I really hope that it will be a sustainable, accessible Flanders for all. Thank you.
Questions for Pieter? I can ask one. So, oh yes, Isabelle. Speak up, Isabelle. Plus fort.
Okay. Do you have any plan? I know it's a very touchy question. I'm sorry about that. To include Wallonie one day, and to merge your efforts with Wallonie for us to sell the whole country of Belgium. Sorry.
That's a political question. Well, I really hope that we will end up with an accessible Europe to start with. Actually, that was how we started when we had that accessibility label, we first wanted to make it an accessibility label that was valid for the entire European Union. Unfortunately, that was not possible. Then we started to introduce it on a national level. Unfortunately, it was not possible. Then we started on the Flemish level, and we ended up with one for Flemish tourism. But now we see that people are coming back. Now we see on the Flemish level that other, like culture and all those other adjacent political fields are now also interested in this strategy. So maybe we will end up with a European label and with a European strategy and the results. That was also one of the steps, indeed. I forgot. Thank you.
I get sometimes small successes are better than large ambitions, right? You can build on the success. There's another question there?
Yes, my name is Philanto from Montreal. You use a nice logo with the round and an arrow for accommodation. Why do you not use this logo for attraction? We have the wheelchair for attraction, and for the wheelchair, all the people think about wheelchair, but the other person don't recognize themselves with the wheelchair. And I think the round and the arrow is very nice logo.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, the idea behind it was the A is not really for accommodation, because it's also used for information centers and visitor centers. But these are the places where we could easiest impose the rules for the label. Now we are indeed expanding them to museums and attractions. What is the difficulty there? Two things. One is that very often there's another ministry responsible for it, so we have to convince them to use it. But that is taken care of gradually. The second thing is that, for instance, well, it's a complicated discussion because, but in a hotel accommodation or in a holiday accommodation, we have done some research among the disability movement, and one of the things that people pointed out was, look, if we go for a holiday accommodation, for us the most important thing is the physical accessibility. Now that may do for holiday accommodation, but it will certainly not do for attractions and museums. So we are now rethinking the criteria so that we can add, we will have this A label, but we will add extra symbols to give information about the other points of interest.
Thank you. Pieter, just one final question. You mentioned this was a pilot that was successful and it's leading to expansion of the efforts. Tangibly, other than what you explained to us, which is remarkable, are you able to quantify the success? Kind of the question I asked Jordi earlier.
Well, in some way this is a difficult question for me because we are not really systematically measuring this. We are not asking people, do you have a disability? Well, sometimes we do, but we will not all the time. We will certainly not ask hotel owners to keep an eye on whether people have a disability or not, because we believe that it is something that is positive for the entire tourism sector. So when I was mentioning that 50% more visitors are coming already to the Flanders Fields area, that is our success. And we also receive a lot of feedback from people with disabilities, both blind and partially sighted people, as people in wheelchairs, for instance, who give us very positive feedback. So we are reaching our goal, I think.
Thank you, Pieter.
Thank you. I'm come from Norway and I'm blind, so I think this question is for all of you. If you come alone as a disabled person, can you get or hide assistance? Because many disabled persons like to travel alone, and The main problem is to get assistance. Is it possible? Thank you.
Would anybody like to? Peter?
Well, I can say that in Flanders I know 2 services at this moment who provide personal assistance for visitors also in holiday context. And also during the summer season there's also specifically focused on the coastal area because it's a very big domestic touristic area. Then we have on most beaches personal assistance available for everybody.
Thank you, Peter. Would anyone else on the panel like to comment on that?
I would suggest to get into the special website, in our case, which is tourismforallcatalonia.com, I think. Not catalonia.com alone, which is just a general promotion, and get in touch with one of these few, but existing already travel agencies that can provide any kind of service, from a package to an assistance. I mean, it's something. It's somehow tailor-made, and it depends on the needs and the requirements of the client. Yeah.